What herpes tends to represent for a lot of people who are newly diagnosed is an adversity. This is, in fact, a traumatic event, and I firmly believe that life isn't about what happens to you, it's about what happens through you. So after you get your diagnosis, I challenge you to ask yourself, okay, what does this really mean to me? What does this really mean for me? How is this working against me? How am I working against myself? Because what happens is, if we're able to look at our herpes diagnosis for what it really is and for what our emotional response to this diagnosis really is, what we'll find is that it's something that triggers us. We're emotionally in a state of being triggered, and if you can trace that back to the most recent time that you felt this exact same emotion, and then you trace that back to the first time you can recall feeling that emotion, then what we've done is we've traced our trigger to the potential source of our trauma, and then we can begin to deal with it from there. This may look like our relationship to sex and sexuality. It could look like our relationship to food. It could look like our relationship to having to have intimate conversations. Because something to take into consideration too is that we live in a predominantly hookup culture to where we have to be emotionally avoidant or unavailable in order to just survive this space. So while we may be longing for intimacy, the removal or the barrier of now having an STI makes us have to put people in the space of very much emotional vulnerability to have to look a little bit further than the instant gratification of being able to just hook up without any sort of consequences or thinking about the long term at all. So when we do disclose our status to a person, we have to take this into consideration. We are extending the potential first invite for emotional availability to a person who might have had to be emotionally avoidant or unavailable out of necessity in order to survive getting intimacy in a way that might look like sex. So look at this and really ask yourself, okay, well, what does this mean for me? What does intimacy mean for me? And when we're able to trace this trigger back to the source of the trauma, I think that we can start to see just how much of this is connected to our emotions.